tell me if you agree with my assessment of who Frank Meyer is and why he is important. The conservative movement, and in fact the Reagan Republican movement, which has given rise to where we are today, was basically could be divided into two camps. There was the liberty camp, dominated by the libertarians, and there was the virtue camp, dominated by the paleoconservatives and the traditionalists. The concern of the libertarians was essentially with the idea of freedom. And the concern of the traditionalists was with the idea of civic and moral virtue. Now, it is an odd thing to fit these two camps together, and in the early days of intellectual conservatism, including National Review, these camps were actually bickering and in some cases openly, they're doing open swordsmanship with each other. And in fact, to the point where there were, and you know about this probably better than anyone else, Young America's Foundation groups where the traditionalists would kick out the libertarians or vice versa at various campuses. And here comes Frank Meyer with a brilliant reconciliation, or an attempted reconciliation between these two camps. And the reconciliation, to put it in a nutshell, is this: virtue is in fact the goal, but liberty is the necessary means to that goal. Why? Because without liberty, there really can't be virtue at all. A virtue that is somehow imposed or coerced is not a virtue because it's compulsory. It's kind of like if your parents grab you by the ears and drag you to do something, you don't deserve any moral credit because they made you do it. It's only when you choose to do something voluntarily that you can say, wow, I can feel a sense of moral satisfaction because I did the right thing. Now, this is a very crude and oversimplified summary, but is this a fruitful way to talk about the, I think, important contribution of Frank Meyer in creating the intellectual foundation for libertarians and conservatives to come together as a team?
Yeah, Frank called it fusionism, and you sum it up very well. Another way of putting it would be, if you were conservative in Great Britain, you might want to conserve the aristocracy or the royalty or fox hunts. If you're a conservative in the United States, what's unique about our country? Well, Frank said that the founding was unique, and I think most people would agree with that. Now, what is the meaning of the founding? Frank said, well, it's freedom, and I think most people would agree to that. So our tradition is the founding, and what the founding means is freedom. And therefore, his point was that freedom and tradition, they're not in conflict, they're in cooperation. In other words, if you take away a couple thousand years of Western civilization, and you can't expect freedom to flourish at that point because it rests on something that's been being built and built and built. And that's basically fusionism. Now, what I found in the book is this is an idea that came to him, ironically, in the Communist Party, that there was something called communist, in the Popular Front in communism prior to the Hitler-Stalin Pact. There was, phrases like slogans like communism is 20th century Americanism. That was their heyday. In the 40s, when the Soviet Union again became allies with the United States, or became allies with the United States, Frank went to a guy named Earl Browder, who was the chairman of the party, and said, listen, if we want to have a shot at getting bowlers instead of all these hardcore Marxists, we need to fuse the American tradition with Marxism. And we need to do this not just on the 4th of July, we need to do this every day of the year. And Browder went down that path. Now, whether Meyer and him became close eventually. Now, whether Browder was going on that path anyway, I don't know. But the Communist Party, they used to start their meetings with the International. All of a sudden, is with the Star Spangled Banner. It used to be General Secretary Browder. Now it was President Browder. Meyer used to run something called the Chicago Workers' School. Sounds very Marxist. Well, they started having things like the Jefferson School in New York or the Sam Adams School in Massachusetts. So they were trying to go in a way to claim that communism was, wrap it up in the American flag. Ultimately, Meyer's a smart guy, even if he was an ideologue, and he realized, gee, these things really don't fit. What does fit? And that was the odyssey that he had for the rest of his life. And in his mind, what fit there with the American tradition was freedom. not Marxism.
When I flip a container around and I can't pronounce it or recognize the ingredients, I put it back. But you won't find me putting back Balance of Nature. In fact, you're going to find these Balance of Nature's fruit and veggie supplements. They're on a shelf in my home. Every single ingredient is a fruit or veggie plucked from the soil. No binders, no additives, no artificial colors, no fillers, just whole fruits and veggies, gluten-free and vegan-friendly. Now, these harvested ingredients are freeze-dried into a fine powder using an advanced vacuum cold process to better preserve nutritional value. I can say with confidence I'm getting 31 ingredients from fruits and veggies. If you don't like taking pills, hey, consider opening up your fruit and veggie supplements, mix the powder into a smoothie or sprinkle it over food. Join me in taking Balance of Nature every day. And they got a good deal for you. Use my discount code, It's America. You'll get 35% off, free shipping, and plus for a limited time, a free bottle of fiber and spice. This is the fiber and spice, but you got to use my discount code America. You need to order online. Go to balanceofnature.com, use discount code America, 35% off, free bottle of fiber and spice, free shipping. Once again, it's balanceofnature.com.